Good evening and welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haynes, former high jumper at UCLA, longtime coach, way longer now, coach than athlete. And this evening we are joined by a young man that, as a running joke of the show, I saw him on Instagram first, and that's where I see all my great high jumping. And your last name is it O'Reilly?
Yes, sir.
Kason O'Riley. Is that right, Kason? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Kason O'Reilly, and I saw some of your stuff in the past, and then I saw the jump from this weekend. That's when it came up across my feed again, and I had just been at Mount San Antonio College in the morning coaching one of my jumpers. She got into the women's invitational high jump, and she's in the middle of a good roll right now, so that was fun. And then I had arranged to meet with your coach, John Frazier, because he and I were teammates at UCLA, and
Gotcha.
I actually did a podcast with your high jump coach, Kendall, a couple of years back. So because she was from UCLA and was at, and so anyway, got all these crisscrosses going on. And then you so graciously accepted. So welcome to the show, Case, and thanks for giving
Oh,
it time.
thank you for having me.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited to talk to young jumpers here in the US. It seems to me after a few years of like, I wasn't really sure. Yeah, every time I think we're not doing that well, then, McEwen turns around and takes the silver last year and almost, wins a jump off. And, nobody else really had a great trials or anything else. So he was kind of a solo act, but he sure
Yep.
came through. So, and then, we've got a ton of talent, coming up. I see young gentlemen like yourself, personal best 7.4 and a half. Eli Kosiba, Division two,
Mhm.
what, 7.6 and a half?
Yes, sir. Yeah, crazy jumper.
Crazy jumper. The Grand Valley State guys go crazy. I saw one kid, what Scotty Vines is one of the new sensations, right? What's
Scotty.
so far?
He's got up 229 so far.
229. And what year is he in?
He's a freshman. He just got to college.
That's crazy. What did he jump? Do we know as a senior
High
in high school?
high school, I believe he went 225.
Okay, so
I think it was at is that like U20
yeah.
uh world championship, something like that.
Nothing to sneeze at, right? And then I saw a video earlier on my feed. I'm so busy I didn't even bother to try to figure out who it was, where they were, but I could have sworn I saw some high school kid jump 7.5 or 6 somewhere just
That,
recently.
oh, for real?
I thought I saw it. I mean, it's one of those things, things come across my feed. All I've got is guys like you. I've got jumpers. I've got, explosive plyos, power, anything and everything that has to do with jumping is constantly just kind of going by me. And I'm, not too proud to steal liberally whatever I can, a drill, a workout, whatever, and either try it in the lab, hence the name of the club. But all right, enough about me. Hey, Kason, tell us a little bit about you and your background. You're competing at Texas State. That part I got. What did you do in high school? What sports? Was it just track and field? Did you do something else? And how did you get to
Um,
Texas State? All that good stuff.
I played basketball and ran track in high school. I loved basketball. I averaged around like 20 points a game in 5A basketball in Texas. And around that time, like COVID hit my junior year. And so I didn't know I was going to have a senior season, but
Right.
I jumped 6'10" so far in high school during that time. And I was like, all right, I had some offers come in. So I signed to Oklahoma to begin with. And then senior year went by, we had basketball and had a great year. So I was like, I could have played basketball, but ended up jumping 7 foot 3 times my senior year,
Wow.
and I ended up winning my state championship and the Nike national championship.
Nice.
And we had some good competition at that meet. We had this guy named Kennedy Souter. He jumps out at Miami now, and
Yes.
he has a PR, I think 224 or 25, one of those.
I think Kennedy's been a guest. I've had Kennedy on the podcast. Yeah.
No, he's a good dude. And then
Yeah.
Tyus Wilson, he's a
Okay.
29 jumper, 229 jumper now.
Mm.
And so it was some really good comp at that meet. It kind of set me up for college.
Right. Yeah, well, it's really gotten, I'm seeing a lot more depth all of a sudden. And, Grand Valley State was Division II. They
Hmm.
sent three guys to the trials, just
Yep.
last year. Now, with your PB, did the 7.4.5 happen this year? Did it happen last year? And did you go to the
Uh,
trial?
I happened this year, but I jumped 220 last year. So I went to trials and had a terrible meet. Just didn't go my way. My mark was a little out,
Hmm.
and so I was taking way too far away, taking off like way too far away, and didn't work out for me.
Right.
But it's still Olympic trials. Had a great experience,
So,
and
yeah, I'm so jealous. I gotta tell you, the other running joke of the show, or just the running reality, is that I jumped 218 as a sophomore, and then I jumped my senior year, I jumped 220 no 19. I think I just went 19, and then I went 22 in the same meet, so I went to 3.5, and that was an 86, so that was a weird year. It was in between. So when I jumped 220 or 218, which is what, 7.2, the Olympic trial height in 84 was only 224. So I was like, 6 centimeters away, and I took some jumps a couple different times that year at 4, and was like, but it was kind of weird because in 84 I had never jumped 7 feet before. So I was a 6'10" jumper in high school, had a terrible freshman year. So my sophomore year was 84, and I just wanted to jump 7 feet. And then when I jumped 7.2, I got on scholarship. So I was just kind of fat and sassy. I was all, I was happy. And I really didn't have it in my goal set. So it was like, I was already kind of on the downside when we got to Pac-10s. And, yeah, I took a shot at the trials, but it was like, I was just too young, not experienced. I mean, if I had made it there, I'm sure I would have got run over like a truck. And, so then 86, I get the PR, and I'm thinking, oh, well, 88, I'll take my shot. And the bar just kept going up. Like the trial height went from what I said, 224. I think the next time it was 225 or six. And then again in 92, when I was 20 years old, it was up to either 226 or 227. And there was no B standard back then. So it was like you
oh
were
wow,
in or you were out. And I was like, oh my goodness. Now, if there was a B standard, I didn't even know what it was. Things were so different. You guys are so well informed this age. Like back then, like I didn't even see other jumpers jump unless we jumped against them. Like you couldn't see them
yep.
online. There was no internet, nothing. So totally different world. But anyway, suffice it to say, I'm so jealous because I tried 84. Yeah, I really took serious shots in 88 and 92, and I never even got to the trials. So I really wanted to go. It was, I put all my eggs in that basket. It didn't work out. And then I finally retired at the age of 28 and started to get a real job because I hadn't done anything forever. So that's another topic we've had on the show, is how do you transition, right, once you get out of college?
Hmm.
So you got to jump at the trials, and you were there with Dontavius Hill, and
No,
then
David still.
several other collegiate jumpers. I'm sure there are quite a few.
Yeah, I think who else was there with me? I know Eli was there. His two teammates,
Yep. Yep.
Javon and JJ. Who else?
Oh,
Scotty was there.
Michael. Did you meet Michael Millslegel?
Oh,
He was Division II also,
yes, yes,
or
I did.
NAIA even. I don't. They might have been at NAIA.
Yep, I believe I did.
Yeah, he jumped 2.5 also. Yeah, had him on once. I was coaching at Vanguard, and Vanguard used to be NAIA, but now they're Division II. But he keeps popping up. He's a good jumper too. Really, really good technician. That's the other end I've been seeing, to be honest, is a lot of really good technique. So, there's quite a few guys. Have you jumped against TJ? I want to say Shankar or something. His last name,
Oh,
he's from India.
As
He
you want
jumped,
to say, yeah, it's one of my good friends. He since my freshman year, since I was in the Big 12, so I was teammates with Vernon Turner, and
Mhm.
then TJ was at K as a senior year at K State.
Yeah,
So yeah, his form is he's smooth.
he is. He's smooth. And I mean, he jumped 7.5 in high school in India,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So then he came over here, and I think he put on a little weight, and then he tried to do the deck, right? And then
Yeah.
he still looks really good. And then I'm so impressed with all the young jumpers. I've had a couple guys from overseas. Have you ever watched Fabian Delrid jump?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
6'9", right? Tall, rangy dude and really strong. Like his weight training that he's put online, I'm just like, wow, this guy's a beast. And scrapes his foot on the ground and jumps 7'7 3/4. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's one of those guys that's made me eat some of my words, my famous predictions of I don't think anybody can scrape their foot and jump over 7'5". That's out. So there's all kinds of ones I've come up with over time. Like that doesn't work. Proving that there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. So you played basketball, then you went into college as a 7-footer out of high school.
Mhm.
And what year are you in now?
I'm in my senior year right now, and freshman year went Big 12. I got second place at the Big 12 championships, outdoors. My teammate Vernon beat me that year, and I jumped 219. So I was like, I had a good chance at it. I had a good run.
Right.
So 219, and then went to nationals. Didn't perform how I wanted to, but uh, all in all, it was a good experience to go out there. And then sophomore, and I transferred to Arkansas my sophomore and junior year,
Right.
and got coached underneath Coach Travis Geffert, and that was a good experience out there. Learned a lot. Jumped. I didn't. I think I jumped. What did I jump? 220 last year. Had a little injury come up my sophomore year, and I jumped. Ended up jumping like 217. Kind of hurt my Achilles, and it was a whole deal. Was not fun.
That's not good. Yeah. What was it, a slight, just a strain or?
Yeah, I got a strain in my soleus and my Achilles, so we got like did a little like PRP in it, and we tried to get it healed up before regionals, and it just didn't want to heal up on time.
Right.
But
Yeah. That's a nightmare. I had one of my jumpers, Barbara Bachaka, came down from Canada, and she hadn't trained for a while, and she just felt great and just was pushing really hard. And I'm the older, wiser. I'm like, hey, you got to take some extra days off here and there, and blah blah blah. And she kept pushing, and then man, right at the end of that season when she was having her best year, she's got the Achilles strain, and I was just like, oh
mhm.
man, and what do you do at that point? I've had the same thing with patellar tendonitis,
Yep,
where you get it diagnosed, and it's like, what do you do? And they're like, rest, stop.
yeah, it's
I'm
hard to
like,
do that.
yeah, right. And you're like, but and of course, it's always right where the big meets are coming up. You're like,
Yep, exactly.
you can't take time off. You're like, I can't take time off. I got,
Yeah,
what
it's
can
like
I do?
my freshman year. I ended up I jumped 219 indoors, and that meet I got a bruise on my spine. And it was the week before Big 12 indoors, and it was trying to high jump with a bruise on
Yeah.
your spine. It's not
Now,
ideal.
did you land on a bar or what did you do?
No, they said so. I had a bad tendency like to I really threw my hips when I got over the bar, and they said some way somehow my something connected, and it just kind of rubbed wrong and bruised it up.
Wow.
And it
So
was
one of those rare cases of being too flexible.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah, it was really crazy.
that was not my problem. My little Romanian coach, man, he used to like, you tall man, come here. He's like, see this thing. He put out. I think one time he made me lay back on the gate that swings and closes off lanes 1 through 5. It's about the width of your mid back, wide, and I'm like laying back, and he's like pulling on my arms and trying to anchor my feet. I'm just like, ah, like I was like, it was like torture for me. I'm just like, and I had actually worked on my flexibility quite a bit. I did learn how to get a little bit more flexibility and stop getting injured because I played football in high school and I always had something nagging going on.
Mhm.
Once I started stretching better at UCLA, I did start getting rid of those, but I was never going to be. I always tell the kids, that I'm training. I go, look, I can teach you everything you need to know about how to get a layout, and I've studied everybody. I've seen so many different styles, and there's so many that I think are that work. I'm like, You know, after watching Javon Harrison, I mean, he's got like four different ones. I've never
Yeah.
seen a guy take a jump that looks the same. So one time he pops one hip, brings that back up, pops the other one. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
because he's got so much air time, he looks like he's practicing his hitch kick in the air in the high jump. You know, and I'm like, if he can make that work, you know, you can find a lot of different ways. But I'm like, you know, the main thing I keep telling him is, hey, would you get your head and your feet on the same level, and the bridge is still up? I don't
Hmm.
get there, but that's a good position. You know,
Yep.
if you can get your head to go just slightly lower than your feet, then the rest of it's over. You know, you're done. So I don't really care how you get there. And I've seen so many different ways, you know, splitting the arms and connecting the arm to the heel. I love that. Steen, my favorite is I don't know if you've seen her. There's a gal named Betsabe Paez from Argentina who's like 5'6". She's like a little pixie, and she runs, you know, a nice curve, single armor,
Hmm.
almost throws her head back immediately. But her layout is so beautiful, you understand why when you see it, because you're like, oh man, if I had a layout like that, I'd try to get to it right away too, right?
Yeah.
And it's so nice, but I'm like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like sometimes for the girls, especially if I'm working the single arms, I'm like, okay, here's a gold standard,
Hmm.
do what you want with that. I'm like, I don't know exactly how to get you there. I can tell you what I think the theory is behind it, but you know, it doesn't hurt to have a visual, in my opinion. So, um,
It always seems like girls have the best form. They
right,
just, it
yeah,
just,
sometimes too good. You know, it's
yeah.
who's the other one? Oh, she's gorgeous. Elena Kulachenko, the one
Hmm.
from
Yeah.
Cyprus, who
Hmm.
jumps in Georgia, right? I mean,
Yep.
you've probably been to meet she's been at, right? So, she has that awesome layout, and it's like she's almost immediate with it. Like the knee barely comes up because she's so fast.
Yeah.
She's really getting through there quick. And I have noticed some of the single armors, they almost don't have to leave their knee up or something about the way, you know, the whole thing flows. But it's like, I also asked her, this is weird because the layout position is so good. And I said, I go, Elena, what do you think? You know, why, what is it going to take for you to jump 2 meters? Because she jumped like 195 or 192, right, in the Olympics and came in eighth, and she finished behind Vashti. Vashti didn't jump that well either, but it was like, yeah. So you had the smaller down here, and then the top ones were like 2 meters. What top two went 202, and the next two went 2 meters. So I'm like, what's it going to take for you to get 2 meters so you can start competing with the two Australians and the two Ukrainians? And I don't even know what happened to the other Ukrainian gal, the real pretty one. I think she's still got to be around, I'm sure. But
Oh, yeah, yeah, the blonde, real
yeah,
blonde. Yeah. I don't know. I
yeah,
haven't seen nothing
Julia,
really about her lately.
Julia something, Julia,
Yeah.
yeah. So I go, what is it going to take? And she just stole the words right out of my mouth. She goes, I'm going to have to learn how to leave my knee up longer. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I go, that's kind of a shocker, you know, because I thought, you know, I almost thought she would just go, I just need to learn how to hold my layout position longer. And I'm like, I don't know if you can do that, you know, for what she's already shown. So anyway, yeah, you're right. The layout position, the women do tend to look better. Although I have learned doing this business that I'm doing of training that when I ask, you know, kids, you know, what do you want me to do for you? You know, and almost to a person, they'll go, my form sucks. You know, hang on one second. I gotta blow my nose real quick. Oh,
Oh, yeah, good.
oh. Oh, that's the beauty of the podcast. I can edit that out later. So when they say to me, they'll go, you know, my form sucks. And my first thought is which part? But what they invariably mean is over the bar. You know, they
Yeah.
want to have a better position over the bar. And you know, sometimes I explain to them, I go, look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your layout position. You're doing it while you're in the middle of your takeoff. So if you can learn how to wait, just and literally in high jump terms, when you say just a second, it's more like tenth of a second or
Yeah.
whatever. It's really not that long of a wait, but it's a huge difference when you can. And so, that's what they're talking about. And it's like, okay, it's timing and this and that, but man, I've broken it down into pieces, and I don't like to dwell on the layout too much, just because, in my estimation, like I watched that Olympic final this year. First of all, when McEwen opened at 7-1, he was a foot over.
Yeah. He
Anybody makes 7-1 by more. And I got to jump against Sotomayor right after he broke the world record. He came to UCLA and he jumped he went 220, 225, 230, 235. Boom, 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 boom. And every jump was like this, right? Every single one. And so I've seen somebody jump really high at low heights where I was like, wow, but I've never seen anybody make 7-1 by a foot. And,
Yeah.
and when I looked at it, he wasn't like throwing his head back and pulling into a great, he just kind of looked down at it and said, yeah, and just sat over and spun over, right?
Mhm.
And that just backs up my assertion. These guys, I go, look, if we're going to get you, let's say you jump, and I'll take a height that I know is 4 inches over their best. So what's your best jump? They go 6'1". I said, okay, let's say you jump 6'3", and you drive your knee up, and then you just go for it. You just throw the best layout you've ever done. Just your back, and you hold it forever, and you pull, and the bar is going like this, but you made it. You got a new PR. I go, congratulations, high fives all around. I go, now, what always happens next? And they just look at me, and I go, the bar goes up. Hello, 2 more inches generally. I'm like, now what are you going to do? And they're looking at me. I go, understand what I'm saying? You just milked every last bit out of that layout of yours. How are you going to get 2 more inches? And they're like, I'm like, yeah, run faster, lean more, bang that knee up, and learn how to wait, which is
Yep.
what I'm already preaching anyway. So you better learn how to do that, So and then Kerr, I mean, the jump off win, it looked to me like his knee was a good 4 inches over the bar. And he
Yeah.
just, you
He's
know,
so effortless. Like I feel like his knee does all the work for him.
right.
Yeah. That dude. They can jump.
Well, I mean, and obviously not everybody's gonna be able to do that. Some guys have more power, some don't, but I'm like,
Mhm.
in general, my theory is bang your knee up, leave it up. And if you can ride it all the way up to the bar, do that, and then get off with the layout. That's about time. And if your head is past the vertical bar plane, you should be good to go. And not everybody waits that long. And, there's so many variables. I watch people, I go, he started a little early for me, but man, he's so flexible. He got away with it. So
Yep.
everybody's different. So how would you categorize yourself, Case, when you say your power, speed?
I'm speed. I'm not the strongest jumper. But I guess I'm naturally. I'm not fast at any means, but I'm 6'7".
Mm-hmm.
So I use my length to my advantage when I'm
Six,
running,
seven.
and so I'm a technically a speed jumper.
6'7". That's
Yes, sir.
really tall. Yeah, you're up there. So now you and did I get, oh yeah, you sent these to my iPhone. Wait, here we go. I'm still doing the jumps, trying to do it on the sly so I can get them in there. Um, there we go. I'm gonna send that one too. So instead of talking about what you're doing, we're gonna figure it out. Speed 6'7". I was so bummed. I stopped growing at 6'3". My junior year, I was 6'3", and I think I topped out at 6'3.5", but that was about it. And
Gotcha.
I keep telling everybody the story. I go, because when you're 6'3", 6'4", most people will be looking up at you. So, but I got to UCLA, and this is in the early 80s. First thing was I had thought about maybe in the back of my mind, like maybe trying to walk on for the football team. And all it took was one day in that weight room. And I walked in, and there were some of the biggest people I've ever seen in there. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, no, no, no. I don't think so.
No, yeah.
I'll get killed. This ain't going to happen. So, but the thing was, everybody at UCLA that I met in the weight room was taller than I was.
Mhm.
The volleyball players were all 6'5", 6'6", minimum. The outside hitters sometimes 6'8", middle blockers are 6'10". Basketball team, everybody's taller. I met Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller was 6'6". There's all these, everybody. The offensive line, 6'5", 6'6", 330, all of them, all the way across.
Yeah.
So I went from everybody looking up at me in high school to everybody looking down at me in college. It's like, it's humbling. You're like, no, you don't understand. I'm not that tall. I'm not that big. There's some really giant people like Sidney Wicks, who was a All-American basketball player, was back on the staff as a, guy. And when I was there, I'm in my 20s. Now I'm in my 60s. So this is 40 years ago. He was jacked still. I mean, he was in fantastic shape for a guy in his 40s. He looked like LeBron does now, like just totally fit, and I was like, man, he would really work those centers out hard because I could tell he could push them around. It's like a big dude. So yeah, everybody I met was giant sized. Well, hey, let's do this while we're hot on the topic of Kason O'Riley jumping out of the building. I just sent these to download, and I'm going to share screen with you so I can look and not lose you. All right, share. And we're going desktop. Yeah, share. Okay, now you're looking at what I'm looking at. I got Kason 1. I think I labeled them 3 and 4 because I did the first 2 from the Instagram.
Gotcha.
Where are the downloads? See, these are those dumb things. Where do I have to go to get the downloads? Oh, I know. Wait, here. Where is it? It's not photos, is it? No. Oh, look at that. I remember Shelby. Okay. All right. We're just gonna go. We'll see how bad they are. If they are bad, we'll get the other ones that you sent.
Gotcha.
All right. So this is the first one. Is this the 225?
That's 21. That's at the conference
21.
championship.
All right. Let's do the 25 first. Where is it? I had Kason 1, Kason 2. Here we go. All right. And here we go. I'm just going to play it through at regular speed first. So we get the sounds. Awesome. So this is 225. And this was when? This year indoor?
Yeah, sir. This year indoor around, let's say January.
Okay. Well, where was this meet? I see
Yeah,
Texas.
6 a.m.
Texas A&M. Yeah. Oh yeah, the colors. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And then let's see. Yeah, typical American power jumper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. All right. And then yeah, kind of you don't really reach your arms back behind you, right? It's kind of
Yep.
so it's almost like a quasi, I would call that like a 1.5 arm almost because the lead arm's in front, the other arm's in back.
Yeah, because
Do
like
you,
I used to jump. Cause that's how I jumped in high school, and then I used to jump. I try to go back to the 2 arm, like swing them back and go up,
yeah.
and my timing just wasn't right. So,
Hmm.
and one day of practice, my mind just switched back to high school, and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna keep it doing that,
Right.
and started jumping
Yeah.
better than.
And that's the other thing. I've got to keep checking myself because I go on these things where I'm like, okay, this is really crucial. We all got to be able to do this. And some people, no matter what you try to get them to do, they can't do it the way that you were trying to get them to do it.
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, well, it's not going to work that way. And they come up with a different way, and you're like, that wasn't what I was thinking. And the other part of my brain is like, yeah, but that works for them. So
Yep.
don't be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, pay attention. And like I'm a big proponent of getting your hands up real high, but I know that not everybody, like you said, maybe they're not strong enough or they're not fast enough to do that, or whatever. But I really don't like when the hands are just about the head because I'm like,
Yeah.
well, to change your center mass, it would get your arms up. Like I'm just like, just run up and jump up like you're going to either be a middle blocker in volleyball or you're going to grab the rim with both hands. Like one or the other. If you're a double armor for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, but you're running really fast and it's hard, especially if you're blowing through your takeoff. And so there's so many little things, and being dogmatic, it's trouble because there's just so many variables.
Hmm.
I looked at what are some of the most sobering things I've seen in videos recently. It was in the middle of last year or the year before. Do you know who Anika McPherson is?
Oh yeah,
She's amazing, right? She's like
yeah,
5'4", 5'5", maybe 100 pounds dripping wet, and jumped 2 meters.
yeah.
Was
She's
six
a
six
freak.
and 3/4, like crazy height. And so I knew of her, and then I see a posted video of hers, and it looks like it's indoor. And I don't know how you guys jump so well indoors because I've only had 3 experiences in my life, and I hated all of them. So I'm definitely a California outdoor kid. So indoor and I do not get along. But I'm watching her, and she looks like she's running down one of the lane lines like you see going by you on the other side, right? So
Hmm.
if she was over on the left, she would have been running down that first lane line. Like she literally looked like it was about 2 or 3 feet maybe outside the standard, right? And she is booking it like straight ahead. It looks like she's just going to hurdle the darn thing. Very little of what I would call curve mechanics. She just,
Hmm.
it is not much of a curve. It is, if it's a J, it's a really straight one. It's like
Yeah.
she runs tiny little bend, and then she puts her foot down. And a lot of people preach that 45-degree angle. I'm looking at it and I go, it's got to be 60, maybe 70 degrees, maybe even 90 degrees. I don't know. She might be just running straight at it. And I'm going, there's no way this is going to work. And then, man, she banged that knee up and around, got the single arm up. She was a mile out, which had to help a little bit. But I'm like, I'm looking at that going, man, that would never in a million years work for me. I'm too heavy, too slow, like so many things that wouldn't work. So it's like, but I used to preach, I don't think you can point your foot towards the bar. Like when I was raised high jumping, it was like parallel plant, and
Hmm.
get your knee around, and I'm like, and that worked for me to a point. But once I started going faster, I tended to blow through my plant because, your foot
Yeah, all that energy is just
lined
shooting
up
you.
to stop you. Yeah. Right. So you just kind of wash through unless you get really good at leaning. So I don't know. I just have gone so many different ways. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start playing around with that foot angle, just to see, what effect it has on some people. And especially if I notice that, if you film people as they're coming off the ground like you are here, you look at the lean back angle. That's one of my favorites, right? You say, okay, straight leg, line your body up, boom. And then where are you at takeoff, right? Hopefully, you can see here pretty good, even though it's so far away here. But your left leg is straight, and your upper body's pretty straight above that. So it's nice. You're close to hitting vertical. The ones that are way over, it looks like legs
Oh
here
yeah.
and upper body's way over here. I'm like, hey, we gotta stop this. You're gonna have to catch some more air somehow. And that's one way that I've been looking at, and the math and the physics line up for me because I'm going, if you're at a 45 and I'm shooting you straight down the bar, it's going to look like you're leaning back
Hmm.
and to your left, all in the same move. You get a little bit of both. And, when you're coming straight down the bar, that last step, you may be leaning back, and I could see leaning back, but I won't be able to see left or right. If you're running straight down the bar right at me, unless you're really, really fast and not quite so flat. But then sometimes you're really cranking that foot, if you get it to parallel. So it's just so many crazy things. So this is 4.5, 225. And what place did this get you?
First.
You win the indoors with 4.5. Nice. And you said this is your senior year?
Oh yes, sir.
Dude, way to win the indoors as a senior. That's awesome. Is that now how many
Well,
times?
this was just a regular meet.
Oh, this isn't it. Okay.
No, no, no,
This is
no.
dual.
That meet was there was something. It took 221. It took 221 to at least get in the nationals,
Right?
and second place was 219.
Mm.
That Virginia track was not the best track to jump on.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't know. I would really love to do this. I'm gonna keep throwing this out to you guys because you guys are younger and smarter. I want to have a meet where we get a really good basketball floor, like a pretty bouncy wood floor
Hmm.
and shinied up, so you can hear everybody squeaking their feet, and everybody's just going to wear high tops and put the pits out there and let's go, let's see what that's like. Cause I'm telling you, these surfaces, I jumped at that. I don't know if you've ever been in Gainesville, but they had the US you know, track and field USA. I forget what they're called. And you know, I did my first meet in 40 years as a senior, and I went and jumped there in Gainesville, and I was just like, I hated it again. I've never had a good experience indoors, and it's actually my best result, but it was like terrible. And I'm like, I didn't like the area. There's no everything, just whatever it looks like here, I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, this looks kind of roomy here. I'm thinking it's not roomy, it's indoor. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but every time that I see something, it's totally misleading when you look at it in a photo.
Hmm.
You get there to any indoor facility, it's just tiny. It's like there's
Yeah.
no room to do anything.
A&M has a nice. They have a good size indoor.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it kind of reminds me of Arkansas's. Say like same surface and all that.
Hmm.
And Arkansas's it's probably it's bigger than Arkansas's really, but it's a good. Yeah, I love jumping at A&M. Their outdoor and indoor track.
Well, I'm glad to hear there are roomier ones because all the ones I've ever been to have been like just everything's crammed together.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
I've been to some of them like that. It's not they're not fun.
oh man. Well, the first experience I had in high school, my run was 20 feet wide.
Hmm.
And so we got to this meet, the Sunkist Indoor in here in LA. I don't even know if that facility exists anymore. And mine was at 20, and they had the wood, and it ran out, and then there was a 4 foot drop to concrete.
Yeah,
That was pretty much the end. And there was a pit over there, and I'm like, I'm measuring mine out, and it's coming up 6, 7 feet short. I go, my approach is out here at 20, and they go, well, this is where it is. So now I have to learn how to run this crunch thing, and I know how it was terrible. That was my
yeah,
first experience. And then 5 or 6 years later, out of college, I tried another one, and I was just like, why did I work so hard to get here? I hate it. I hate it. I hate it here. So the next indoor one I'm going to do is going to be off a basketball floor.
hey,
I don't,
that's not a bad. That sounds like a bad idea.
what was
Because I
that?
do jump. I said that don't sound like a bad idea. I do jump pretty high off on a basketball court
Right.
because
Well,
I
that's
can
the
get my
thing
head up to
too.
the rim
Like
easily on a
it's
basketball
not
court.
an original idea because like all my other ideas for the last few years, seems like I got it, off of looking at a post on Instagram. So, what does everybody do back east when it's freezing in the winter and you've got snow all over the ground and all that, and you want to keep training? Well, if you jump indoors, and if you don't have an indoor facility, you put the pits on the basketball court, you jump there. So I
Yep.
remember watching somebody do that at their high school, and I'm like going, dude, that looks like a gas. I mean, I've run and jumped and dunked before, and there's plenty of room on a basketball court. Like all I need is one. I don't need a huge facility. I'm talking high jump only. I want to do one of
Exactly.
those signature meets. So, all right, we're looking for the place, Kason, and we're going to get you and Dontavius, and we'll get all the boys, and we'll go for it. That'd be so much fun. I really want to do that. The one thing that I'm really a champion of is promoting you guys. I got to find a way to, I don't know how to break away from the big networks. I know people are starting to do it. I wouldn't mind doing even just a live feed. The problem is working with these stupid meet directors because, oh, you can't be out here videoing. I'm like, okay, let me back this up. This is track and field. You understand, in this country, track and field might as well be battling, Bassmasters on TV for
Yeah.
television ratings. Like we are the bottom of the barrel. Every other major sport in the world is getting more coverage. People make more money than us. So how about you get out of my way and let me promote the sport? Like let me video from out on the track, good angles that I can produce later and go, here are these great jumpers and just showcase you guys. Watch
Yep.
this, watch this. This is exciting. But no, it's, I feel like I'm banging my head against a wall. I've got a big hole in my forehead. Oh my goodness. So, you're qualified for the outdoors, obviously. How did indoor go this year?
I jumped 217. It's my lowest mark of the season, and just when I didn't feel
Happy place
comfortable.
with
Yeah, I
that.
just didn't put my just want to put my jumps together. Like my 219 attempts they weren't bad. Just wasn't finishing my jump, getting my legs over.
Yeah. And you said the place was terrible, right?
Yeah, it was like a like jumping on concrete.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was the worst. We had one good like Tyus, he jumped 228, but he was
Hmm.
the only jumper that would go over to get in 220s.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that one place that seems to fit one person, you know. You're
Hmm.
like nobody else likes it, and you're like, okay, well, like we have a meet out here called the Orange County Championships, and it's held at Mission Viejo High School. And nothing against them, it's a nice school. They got a lot of money in that area, blah blah blah. And almost every other event is fine where it is, but they have the way they have the track set up. They have the two long jump pits down in one end, in one of the end zones, right? And that whole apron has those two, the long and the triple. You can do two longs, or you can do whatever you want. You know, they work either way. Um, and then they put the pole vaults down in the other end. So they got two pole vault runways in the other end. There's no room for anything down there. So they go, well, we're going to have the high jump. So they put the high jump in that they give you like two steps tops on the runway on the rubber.
Yeah,
Everything else you start out on the grass. So you have to transition from grass to rubber, and it's so slow at the start, you know. And every year, like I'm working with a new, not a new coach, but for a coach that I knew that was, you know, got this job at the school. And he's like, yeah, I go, what's the schedule this weekend? He goes, yeah, we're going to Orange County Championships. I said, I'm not going. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm not going. I said, that place frustrates the heck out of me. Nobody jumps well there ever.
yeah,
You know, the meet record's like 6'4". And that was one of my kids that I coached. But he did it before I started coaching him. And he was a power jumper. So he could do it. He wasn't really that fast, and he could get there. And it wasn't that he wasn't fast, he just wasn't approaching that fast. But it was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I can't. And of course, the guys that I were working with from the school, they were all gung ho there. And I'm like, I'm telling you guys, I'm going to another meet. Have fun. Let me know how it works out, you know. And so on Monday, I come back and I go, how'd it go? They're like, oh, coach, it was terrible. And I'm just like going, yep, I told
yeah.
you. I'm
We
like, no.
uh we had to meet my senior year. My first time is odd. It's so crazy. My first time jumping 7 foot. We had to jump on the turf football field,
Hmm.
and because the high school out here they didn't have any like track. Well, they had the track, but it was just for the running,
Hmm.
and uh, it was just jumping on turf. Not it's not the most ideal thing in the world. Like, it's
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
But I guess I felt bouncy that day, and I
Right.
jumped 7 foot. So I was like, "Hey, whatever worked for me."
Was it?
But I would never do it again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing you got to think about is, you know, can you plant without slipping? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be the biggest concern. I was, um, Doug Nordquist was a member of the '84 team. He jumped with Stones, who's actually a distant cousin of his. And after '84, he ended up getting a personal best of 236. So he goes by Bounder 236 on his Instagram. He's a couple of years older than I am now, but he competed at Washington State. You know, great jumper. And he was telling me a story of this one place because Doug ran an unbelievable curve. He was one of the first people that I had these like mind-bending revelations where you don't really can't really tell something sometimes. I mean, video is one thing, but I mean, right there in person. And I'd seen video of him. I whatever is 1984, like I said, my sophomore year, and he was out of college by then. And then I got a chance to jump against him a couple years later. And just his first run through, he ran what I would call a boomerang. Like he ran in, dropped into his curve, you know, and ran all the way around like a 10-step curve and came right back out the other way, you know, like that. And your hair is blowing in the wind as he goes by because he was just hauling it, you know, and he literally dropped into like a 45 and just and hit the gas, you know. And I was like, I just literally went, like I've never seen anything like that before. And so, you know, I now when I tell the kids, I'm like, you got to understand when you guys are doing stuff, I see other things. I see like the best of that drill. And then, you know, you guys are just kind of feeling your way through it, you know, and I show them and you know, I can't run fast, but I can still run a boomerang. So I want you to run like this, and they'll
Mhm.
run and then they drift off and drift down the barn, slow down, stop, and, you know, wander off. I'm like, no, 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 do it like this. So what was my point about Doug and oh no, he told me that he went to a place and it was wet or whatever. And he said, yeah, he was running that curve and he slipped. He goes, and I just went, and he literally said, I went nipples up under the pit. Like he said, basically all the way up to his chest, slid under the mat. He's had to
Oh
crawl
wow.
his way back out. I was like, you did what? He said, yeah, I slipped all the way under. I was like, man, that would, of course, if you've ever had that experience, even a slight slip,
Oh yeah.
you lose all your confidence in jumping immediately, right? Because you don't know if you're going to hold your plant.
No,
Terrible,
exactly.
terrible experience. So indoors over, thank God. We're progressing to outdoor. Where's the outdoor finals this year?
It's gonna be back in Oregon.
Oh, just smack me in the head. I'm too busy. So, well, first of all, we've had this discussion before on the show, but Oregon is not a friend of the show. No, I was a UCLA guy, so us and the Ducks, we went up there my first 3 years for dual meets, and it was an experience each time. Fantastic track town.
Mhm.
Have you been to Tracktown Pizza?
Um, I have actually, yeah.
Yeah,
Last time I went, I have.
like
Yep.
that place, right? You got all the
Oh, yeah.
black and white photos all over. I have not been in 40 years, but I went, 3 years in a row. So my freshman year, when I don't know how I made that travel team because I wasn't jumping that well, but they wanted to carry three, and I made the cut, so they took me. And we had a great time. Went to Tracktown Pizza. I'm looking on the walls. I'm seeing the great Oregon athletes, all sports. And I saw Russ Francis, who was a javelin thrower. He was one of my favorite players. He was a tight end in the NFL for the Patriots and ended up getting traded late in his career to the Niners. And he won a Super Bowl in '84. Tragically passed away just a couple of years ago in a plane accident, but he was just a great athlete. I'm just like, oh, and that place, the stands, the old stands they have. If you ever see the movie Animal House, in the background they have the old stadium, and it was these wood bleachers. And man, those Duck fans, they show up in numbers, man, in bad
Oh
weather.
yes, they do.
And they make noise. it's that place gets deafeningly loud. So anyway, I don't I don't want to go back to Oregon. We lost our first 2 years, and then we actually won my third year, and it was always weather dependent. First 2 years they brought rain, and 1 year snow, and then my third year it cleared up and was 85 degrees, and it was like we were back at home, so we beat them. Um, I talked with your coach, as a matter of fact, just the other night, and he gave me some background. So if you get a chance to listen to that one, it's pretty good. We talked about some of the background of those meets. They had great athletes, like they do now. They're recruit internationally the same way. I know coach does that with you guys because you've got some international
Oh yeah,
athletes.
we have a lot of, especially on the throw side. We got a lot of
Uh-huh.
internationals.
Yeah. Well, Coach John is not going to be left behind doing that, I'm sure.
Oh, exactly. And and when he recruits the best.
Oh,
He has
absolutely.
great athletes.
Do you know he told me on the podcast, and I didn't know this because he was a large man when I met him at UCLA, but he said in football in high school he ran a 4.5 40. Did you know that?
No, not know that.
He was fast. Yeah, he said that, and on his team he played everywhere, so they didn't really have a position for him.
Uh,
And he thought about playing at UCLA too, and he said he was glad he didn't make that decision because, but he ended up squatting 705 full squats, and I said that makes sense when you're squatting that much weight, even if you weigh 375, you're still squatting twice your own body weight if you squat 7.
exactly. Yeah, he saw. I think I saw a picture of him. One of my teammates showed me when he was in college, and he looked just like a big dude, just strong.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Huge guy. I told this story. I can tell again. I went out one night with the shot putters and the discus throwers, basically the throwers, and they would go eat downtown in Westwood. And have you ever been to UCLA? You guys ever had a meet there or gone there?
We drove through because so from Mount Sac, Coach K, she drove
Right.
us. She showed us
Oh, nice.
everywhere.
Okay. So Westwood is, just off campus, and
Uh,
really back in when I was in college, it was a lot busier, I think, than it is now, and a little bit smaller in some ways. Like there were small shops and this and that, but art galleries and Haagen-Dazs and just a mix of stuff. And then there was this $5 taco place. So, and it was all you can eat, if you believe that, for $5. And of course, the throwers would just live there because that was every Wednesday. One time, like, hey, you got to come with us. So we went down there. Of course, an eating contest ensued, which I think I came in third when I ate 29 tacos, which wasn't bad for a 6'3", 190-pound, high jumper. But
Yeah.
there was a couple of them where I think the big eaters weren't there that time, but I think John said he ate like 60 or something. I believe that. And
I believe it. I
right.
believe it.
And then so we went after that to Bruin Bowl, right? And I went there for 4 years, but I never went to the bowling alley. I would go play video games, but I
Mhm.
didn't go bowling. It's actually one of the few things that I've ever done athletically that I've never been very good at. And I never play. So I think maybe if I did it all the time, I could figure it out, but I play so infrequently, I'm terrible. But anyway, we go to play and these guys invented the new game, which had nothing to do with score. The thing that made them the happiest was to just rocket the ball down the runway at high speeds and try to destroy the pins and
Mhm.
just blast them all into the back wall. Like if they got a strike where the pins all just went boom and just rattled off the back wall, they'd all jump up and down. So that was an experience. I'll never forget that one because it was like, and it literally looked like Olympic competitions because it wasn't like a regular, cock your arm back and swing. It was like they were literally, taking like 3 running steps and just, doing the
Yeah.
whole thing. It almost like a disc, underhand. I don't know how to describe it, but
Just throwing them.
first, I've never seen anything that heavy move that fast. Let's put it that way. So, well, going to Eugene, what do you think, man? This year, there's going to be you. There's going to be Eli. There's going to be all the guys from Grand Valley. There's going to be no, they can't jump it against you guys.
No, no, not in D1. So most likely it's gonna be me, Tyus. Who else we got? Scotty, Oklahoma jumper, Kyron,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia high jumper, Ryan. I hope I'm not trying to forget anybody.
Right. Now you'd be in trouble in the jumping community.
Yeah,
You get slaughtered.
USC, USC high jumper, Elias. There's about like 6 or 7 really good guys out there.
Yeah.
I didn't mention yet. My bad.
Right.
But
Seals.
it's gonna be a good competition.
SC.
And
Yeah. They've had some good jumpers in the last few years. They had one guy just 2 or 3 years ago. I remember last time I went for this one to Mount Sac and I saw Seals, I think was his name. You know,
Ernie Seal, yep, Ernie.
he
Sears,
jumps
Sears.
Sears. He jumped 7'6.5" at Mount
Yep.
Sac a couple of years back.
Yeah,
And then
Ernie's
a guy that
good.
had graduated from Texas Tech jumped 5, and he was the guy that changed my mind about the foot scrape. He scraped his foot and jumped 5 1/4. And so I'd never seen anybody jump that high there. There's 2 guys. One went 5 1/4, and then Sears for the win at 6.5. He was really good. I was kind of blown away by him. He reminded me a lot of Barshim because he's real thin and real
Yeah.
fast. He's a double armor, but his cycling was really good. Like he didn't scrape his feet.
No,
His
yeah, Ernie, he just shoots and he shoots over the bar.
yeah,
He
his
just
foot was kicking him in the butt, and he was going
Yep.
straight up, and had nice rotation and everything. I was like, man, these guys are pretty good. So better than I remember. I got to jump against Hollis Conway my
Mhm.
senior year, who jumped 7'10.5", went to 1 1/4, I think he jumped 10 1/4 before Austin jumped 10.5 to take
Yep.
that. And then,
Yeah, Charles, I had trained with Charles a couple times in high school, and
uh-huh,
then his son also trained me a lot, Alex, and so I used to hear all the stories about
I bet.
Charles and stuff.
Yeah, well, that was one of the biggest jumps. I went through a long period. Once I decided that I was no longer doing that for trying to get the Olympics and all that and got a regular job, I went into teaching instead of coaching,
Hmm.
which I'm regretting now, but it's kind of shaped me the way that I am. So I don't know. It's one of those things. If you could go back and change it, would you? Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's sometimes I'm still like, can you make any money coaching track and field? I'm like, I don't I don't know if it would
Yeah.
work. Um, because this business I have as a side business is, still like I said, that's why I'm into promotion. I'm like, if we can get people watching this sport, maybe we can get, I like this NIL stuff. I'm amazed to hear, that they want to put roster limits on you guys. I'm like, okay, wait, you can't be paying track athletes. I know there's no money coming in. It's like,
Hmm.
none of the football programs are going to go, here, we've got extra. Here you go. we'll give
Yeah.
you some money. That's not going to happen. So unless you're bringing in money, who's going to get paid all this money? I just don't see it. And everybody at the top are like vultures. They fight over whatever USA Track and Field and your vendors and I am glad that Nike and New Balance and is it Reebok, they have those nationals meets that they're doing for you guys at least, or at least
Adidas. Adidas. I know
Adidas.
Adidas.
Yeah, Adidas. Not is Reebok even a brand anymore?
No, I think Adidas bought them out
Yeah.
a
Okay.
while
So
back.
no, that makes sense. Adidas, Nike, and New Balance, right? And then they're in different parts of the country, and that's kind of for the unders, right? The unders and unders coming up. But I was saying I was bemoaning the fact that there wasn't a national championship, and so he said, well, they kind of is. They have. It's not really official, but I'm like, I would like to organize just because of the way this country works now. Like football, went from a 2-man playoff to a 4-man playoff to like however many
Yeah.
it's end up. Eventually, it's probably be just like the Sweet 16 and or higher from basketball. So it's like, why not just take all the state champs and let's have a big meet, and see if we can get some interest going that way. Or I'd like to see dual meets come back, some way to generate interest. And the problem is the way that it's broadcast is still just archaic. Oh,
Yeah, you got to pay for everything to watch track and field. And
yeah,
even if you do watch it on ESPN, you're not guaranteed to watch the high jump. You're not guaranteed to watch the long jump.
right.
But you're going to watch the running events.
Oh yeah,
And it's hard to promote the field events when they don't show them.
right. And you're going to see every lap of that 10,000
Exactly.
though.
Exactly. It was, but yeah, like no
Come
shade
on,
to the
man.
10,000, but
Yeah.
yeah, one lap's enough. That's all I gotta watch.
Right. Well, I love it because they're going through and it's like, so they're jockeying for position and we still got about 16 laps to go. So Fred, how's your daughter Amy doing in her
Yeah,
biology class? It's I heard she was struggling, and they're just making up stuff to talk about. I'm like, could you
yeah.
guys cut away to one of the other events? Like,
All you had to do is cut away real quick. And
yeah.
so I know, like Arkansas, when my family would try to watch the meet, and it'd be the 10K going, and then the high jump. You can see glimpses of it when they come back around and they
Oh yeah.
video. Like all you have to do is take 5 seconds, take down there and show the high jump.
Right.
I'm
Focus
like,
in on me right here. I got it. We did the same thing. I'm telling you, it was 1986 was my senior year at UCLA, and Prime Ticket came out to us and said they wanted to film the meet, and we are going against Cal at home. They brought the rain with them, and I was jumping in the high jump with Mike Powell, who's the world record holder in the long jump, who was also 7'1" jumper in high school. Unbelievable vertical, that guy. And he never practiced ever. I don't remember him ever practicing. He always only on the team with me for 1 year, but I don't remember him coming over and practicing ever. He would just wing it. And so he would just jump to come in second. Didn't really care. He'd let me have what I was doing because he was busy doing long, and I think he threw in the sprints. Sometimes he'd do the triple. He was all over the place. But anyway, they set up the cameras, and same thing you're saying. We see all the cameras, and we're just jacked. We're like, this would be great. They're filming the meet, and they said, yeah, we're going to show the meet almost immediately that night. So we all get together. We're sitting there, and it was the same way it is now. It was like they showed all the running events. They didn't not one field event that I remember. And if you were lucky, they would show who won a
yeah,
little graphic. Maybe I don't even remember that. And so we were reduced to just what you're saying. They were running around the track. And I'm like, hey, look in the back corner. I think that's me.
yeah,
There's a guy running and there's the bar. He's like, oh my gosh, really? So yeah, it hasn't changed apparently. It's amazing. I'm
yeah.
like, if you can make, and I love golf. Okay, I'll go play golf and drop of a hat, and I think it's fantastic. But
Oh yeah, I went and
for
played the other day. It's
for
always good.
somebody, I mean, admittedly, I can get bored watching a golf tournament. Okay, if there's no great personalities, it's not a fantastic course, it's not a major, blah blah blah. Now, if it's the Masters, I'm watching, but they've learned how to tart that up. Number one, it's a gorgeous course. Number two, it has outrageous history. Number three, they got cameras everywhere. So if somebody chips in for eagle on the second hole, you're going to see it. And a guy could be in dead last, or he could be the only amateur to make the cut, or it could be whatever. But you're going to see pretty much every amazing shot. And I'm like, you guys need to learn from the Masters and from a basic football telecast where they have all these cameras from different angles and they're all looking at different stuff. And you get that one guy in the truck going, okay, cue camera one, let's go over here, and watch. Here's Kason. He's taking his first jump at, 220, and he's currently in the lead. And you just give a little quick and boom, there you go. All right, he's over. Okay. And we're going to come right back in a minute. And right now, let's go direct your attention to the pole vault. I mean, it's a three-ring circus and something's
Yeah,
always
exactly.
going on. It should be a fantastic telecast. It should be
Yep.
unbelievable, but it's always terrible.
Yeah, and my favorite thing is when there's no events going on besides the field events, and they still don't show the field events.
Right, right.
I'm like, it's just
Oh man. Well, so let's get to the really important stuff now, because this, unfortunately, is the year after the Olympics. So we have 4 years to wait, or 3.5, or however you want to look at it. So, you as a senior, what are your plans, Kason? Because you've qualified now, you've been to one. Are you going to stick it out another four and go again?
that's the plan. I wanna hopefully I jump high a little bit higher this season and work on like getting into some of those bigger meets.
Hmm.
Like I'll do USA's again and try to see if I can make a USA team again.
Right.
Um, I made the NACAC team my sophomore year after I got healed up, so that was fun. So I want to either make Worlds, Pan Am, or another NACAC team. Um, Hopefully do something. I'm trying to find some way. Need to get like some type of brand deal or a
Right.
contract to help I pay expenses for the
Right.
meets. Um, but yeah, like that's my ultimate goal is to go back to Olympic trials and get one more shot at making the Olympics team.
I love it. I love it. It's tough. From what I understand, this is another thing that pops up from time to time when we're doing these podcasts is that, you start talking to seniors, you start talking to guys that have been out for a year, talking with Dontavius just last year. He's been on a couple different times and he was, saying, yeah, everything's different, unless you're going to hang out at school, be a graduate student or something like that.
Yep.
You leave campus, now you're in the area of where do I train? What if I roll my ankle? Like I rolled my ankle at UCLA on the IM field, and I could hop on my foot into the training room and shove it in the ice whirlpool and get taped up and start doing
Yeah.
exercises and come back. I did that in '92 when I was competing and I was at home, and I rolled my ankle pretty good stepping into the pit, and this is like a month and a half before the trials, and I still didn't have a mark, and I'm getting, feeling the pressure. And then I rolled my ankle and I'm like, oh, wow. So I did everything I knew. I iced it really good and then I taped it up really tight. And unfortunately, I was coaching at a junior college out here, and the state meet was the next day. And we flew up to Shasta. And as soon as we got up to altitude, my ankle exploded. It literally blew up like it wouldn't even, I could feel it swelling inside my shoe. I'm like going, oh no. And so then of course we get there, and I had pretty much toughed it out. I got up in the morning, it was okay. I had the tape on it and everything, and I limped a little, but I hit it pretty well. And we were walking around, and then man, that plane, when I got up at the altitude and it just swelled up, we got off and I was hobbling around, and it was a 2 day state meet. And, I was like, oh my gosh, this is never going to work. So yeah, you find out right away, you lose a lot of advantages. You don't have the
Yep.
training facilities, you don't have the weight room, so yeah, how do you do it? How do you, like you say, how do you make money? I think there might be some more opportunities for you guys now inside of the mega business of sports, or whatever, but
Yeah.
how do
But
you
they
find
have
sponsors?
they have the Diamond League, and they got a few. I know they have a few meets besides the Diamond League. They have a few meets in America, like New York. I know they have one in Memphis.
Yeah,
But they're not. But the thing is, nowadays you have to have world ranking points, and you have to go to bigger meets to get the
yeah,
world ranking points,
yeah.
and that's the hardest thing to get.
Yeah, yeah, and you're jumping, 4.5, so you're knocking on the door to some of those big events, and but like you said, man, it's if anybody's not paying attention, sports is competitive, right? And all
Yeah,
those there's a bunch of people that are just as hungry as you going, yeah, I want that same spot, right? So you gotta go through that. It's pretty amazing. I think about it and really, well, Jeremy, we had Jeremy Fisher, the athletic, the U.S. Olympic Training Center down in Chula Vista here in California. It used to be funded by USATF. They pulled all of this funding, and Jeremy has held on to it somehow, doing private business stuff, and he's trained a lot of athletes that have done well at NC2As and the worlds, and even in the Olympics, he's put people on podiums. So he's very well respected. He's one of those people that when I get a chance, I just listen, and that's rare because I can talk your ear off about anything, but I will listen to him because he knows his stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I know there's something that I can learn by listening. And he was talking about the last time he was on that, they just don't pay the field events. They don't.
Nope.
The sprinters get paid 100, 200, maybe 4x1, maybe 4x4. And interestingly, and we've talked about this on the show before, but the distance runners will get paid, I think, because of the subculture of just marathons and everything else,
Mm,
people that just run weekend warriors. So you got that whole subculture there, but it's like, that's not a lot. And you can be even, Krauser, multiple gold medalist, and, our discus thrower, I forget her name. She's amazing. And, just all these great athletes, and they're fighting over scraps. They're just, unless you're breaking world records, they're not really paying. And even when they
yep.
do, they're not paying that much. So yeah, I don't know. I think about it now. I remember my roommate and I, my freshman year at UCLA, used to sit up at night and talk, and all those dreams, right? I want to go to the Olympics. I want to do this. I want to go that. And I think about it now, and I'm thinking, man, I was so naive, so uninformed. You're thinking I could be like Bruce Jenner and be on the cover of the Wheaties box, win the
Yep.
gold medal and blah blah blah. And it's like, a lot of those guys, they didn't make a whole lot of money, even though they were gold medalists and they had their moment in the spotlight. It's a
Exactly.
tough business. It's a tough business we're trying to take a hold of here, Kason.
Sure
Well, hey,
is.
I greatly appreciate your time. I know you're 2 hours ahead and you're a young student and all that. So, but let's leave this open-ended, man. I want to have you back on again and talk, whatever comes up, and definitely keep us apprised. If you would like me to share videos of you, I'd be happy to promote. Let's take that idea and run with it. Find a place, man. If you find a place out there that has an outrageous floor, tell me. Or if I find one, I mean, I'm serious. I want to get it done. I want to get all you guys when you're young and just bouncing out of the building.
Mhm.
See if we can find, the wood floor, no spikes. It'll be tennis, high tops only, and
Yep.
indoor, good basketball floor. I do remember this. My probably was the year after my senior year at UCLA. I was still on campus, and we were playing at Pauley Pavilion, and playing, I don't know, C basketball or something. I wasn't a great basketball player, but I could dunk. So, and someone in the middle of this game got a breakaway and just threw one up for me. So I ran, I catch it, and I took like 3 good running steps, and I went up, and I literally went boom. And when I went up, I was like, whoa, like it felt like the floor just went boom and just
Yeah.
launched. Like it was a great floor. I was like, oh, this is what it's like where these guys are throwing down these dunks. I'm like, this is nice. So I'm like, man, can you imagine doing that with juice? Get a good floor, have your shoes all squeaked, like I said, and just let it rip. I'm like, I don't see why people wouldn't just have a blast. And it would be high jump only, because that's all the people that are fitting in the gym, man.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we'll get the top flyers, and charge a decent amount to get in, and get our TV camera set up the right way and do a good telecast. I so want to do that. I need to find somebody that's got money and the ability to produce. All right. I need more contacts. Okay. Well, hey, dude, appreciate your time. Best of luck, Kason. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. Want to see continued success. 7.4 should be your floor for sure. What do you think this year? Can you get 230?
Oh,
What's
that's the goal. 230 is the goal. That's that magic number.
yeah.
That's that bar can get you a lot of places. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as you think about it, inches wise, it's just 2 more inches. That's
Yep.
not too much.
It's not. It's really not. I think about that like we're talking about, I'm trying to teach the kids, what's the difference? And I said, like I said, if you can run faster, get a better curve, bang that knee up, I'm like, how much more time is it in flight to get those 2 inches? It
Mhm.
can't be, it can't be a long time.
Yeah.
The whole
Just-
event, 4.5 seconds from beginning to end, maybe.
yeah. You just gotta be patient. You gotta be mentally patient too, especially at those high heights.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta.
We've talked about that so many times. I go, this is the quandary for the track, the high jumper. I go, look, you gotta run, and adrenaline's a wonderful thing. So you can really get going. And like you're going fast, right? And we train all this neuromuscular stuff and fast twitch and all these great things, CNS stuff, like right, central nervous system, just boom, get jacked fast. Okay, boom. And I go, the weird thing is though, is if you ask yourself to start going like super, super fast, the paradox is once you take off the ground, you got to slow everything down
Yeah,
to a
it's gotta be.
crawl. Because if you go wham and you just go right through and then you throw your head back even quicker, I'm like, the sequencing has to change.
Yeah.
You gotta learn how to all of a sudden from hyper, if you can manage to corral it and hit vertical, now you got to become the super patient person.
Exactly.
Here's a quick question for you. Before we let you go, I'm having trouble with this, as you would expect, working with young athletes, and they're like, "Well, how do you know when to begin your layout or whatever?" And I said, "Well, I can tell you that I've tried a bunch of things, and I know that some athletes are visuals. They can jump, they can turn their backs, they can start to fall, they can look down the bar, and they know pretty much when to throw their head back or whatever. And it's a visual cue that they have figured out." And I said, I know I've heard of some coaches that actually will yell now to their athlete because they're jumping and they've turned and they're not looking at anything and they're
Hmm.
throwing their head back as hard as they can. They're blind. They might as well be a bat.
Yeah.
You know where they are, but they're trusting to an internal timer. And the coach may have worked with them on go up and just wait until you hear me say now. And then, who knows? It depends on your reaction time at that point because it's not going to be instantaneous. But I'm like, maybe there's ways to do both. My coach, Alan Hankel, who coached Doug Nordquist, he was working with me towards the end of my career on getting my eyes off the bar and looking at the standard and the fire standard and turning here and trying to jump inside the standard, turn and then whatever. Because I was bar bound. I didn't even know that. I'd been jumping for 16 years. And he goes, "What are you looking at?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at the bar." He's like, "No, you need to look over here." I mean, huge difference. So what do you do when you're going up and you're, say you jump 7.4 1/2 and you're going up and you go from 225 to 230, in one shot. How, what are you looking at when you do it? How do you do it?
So I'm kind of like I look at the bar, but I have heard from multiple people that looking at that standard is better.
Yeah.
And but I do look at the bar, and I drive like when I'm in the air, I drive my knee up as high as I can, and when I see when I feel that my like at least my ribs are over the bar,
Hmm.
now I lay out, and then just hopefully everything flows over like it
Right.
should.
Yeah.
Uh, but like at lower bars though, I try to time it where my hips are getting over the bar,
Right.
and then I lay out.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like that one. It's simple and it's based on it is still a spatial relationship, right? And it's not an internal timing thing. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I keep telling, I shouldn't just say kids because I don't just have kids, but they're kids to me because I'm an old guy. So I go, your layout time to me, if you're doing everything really well, let's just say you open at 7 feet. So you go 215, you go 220, you go 225. Said as the bar goes up, I said, interestingly enough, all the phases, and I've broken the high jump in my estimation into 5 phases: straight, curve, takeoff, flight, layout.
Hmm.
I said, the better you get, the more those phases will clearly separate out. Like if you're throwing your head back in the middle of your takeoff, I go, technically you're in phase 5 and you haven't finished 3 yet.
Exactly.
That's everything's out of order. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'd like them to be nice and clean. Now, cameras make that a little easier, but at the same time, there should be some separation, and especially as the bar goes up. So I go, well, hey, look, if you're running faster as the bar goes up, doesn't that mean that your first 5 steps are probably faster and therefore shorter overall than they used to be? And like, yeah. And I said, what about the curve? Same, right? Yeah. Ground time, blah, blah, blah. At takeoff, maybe you might get a little bit longer, maybe not, at high speed. I'd love to see data on that one, but as far as huge changes, you're going to be on and off the ground so fast that takeoff is going to be a very short duration. I said the only phase, in my estimation, that should get longer as you jump better is flight. Your flight has to get longer and longer and longer. And then I said, if you do it right and you wait till you're in the same position, your layout should always be about the same.
Yep.
I would think, you do what you do. Because I became convinced by watching Barshim. I thought Barshim, first of all, he's the first guy I ever saw take off from that far out and also behind the bar, like that weird angle that he comes in at. And then he just seems like he jumps at a diagonal, but he still goes over before the midpoint of the bar, super tight in that area, but also very patient. If you watch any of the 7-Eleven jumps, for sure, right?
Yeah, 7-Eleven jumps are insane.
He's waiting. He's still climbing, and he's also getting closer and closer. I tell him this. I go, look, if you're throwing your layout while you're still vertical, it's way too early. I said, you need to be waiting till you're almost horizontal before you do that. If you can, then you pop your head down towards your heels, and you're going to get over quick,
Yep.
And that's a real art form. But it looked to me like he was waiting till his head was where he could see down the bar. I was convinced that he was looking straight down the bar, or maybe even at the back side of the bar before he would. I've never seen him go early. I saw him do it once, and it was in the 2016 Olympics when Derek Drown just kept making jumps on the first bar.
Yeah, Derek, that dude's a freak.
That was amazing, that Olympics. And I didn't see the Worlds. I heard he was just as good at the Worlds, and I mean, maybe those guys knew he was coming because, I mean, he spanked Bondarenko. It wasn't even close. And Barshim kept up with him until that one height. When they got up to the very last height, they had both made everything clean. And then again, just boom, way over with tons of clearance.
Yeah, it's like he just bounds over the bar.
It was so fast. And he looked like he was going to double because he'd gather and then single. And then just outrageous rotation and just up and around over. And I remember watching, you could almost see Barshim like, man, again, and even though he was going last, Droon just kept making everything on his first jump. And it was like, he just finally, I saw him for the first time that I'd seen him go up, and like halfway up, he threw his head back way too early and tried to arch his way over. And I was like, wow, I've never seen that out of him. I think it was the only time I've seen it. And I was like, that was amazing, because I was convinced that he had either that internal timer or he would wait every time till he saw the bar. But it took, Derek Droon just drubbing both of them. That I was amazed by that one. That's one of my favorite ones to watch. The other final, what is interesting about that one too, on another quick aside, but I saw that video that Tamberi posted on, I don't know if he posted it, but it was on Instagram, and it had his entire 2016 season, jump by jump, right? And it was like, everything was like 230, 232, 233, 236, and on and on and on. And I'm like, man, that was an outrageous year. I'd forgotten about that year. And he had one jump at 239, said, NR, new record, whatever. And then he took one jump at 240, that 2 or 3 inches of clearance. And I don't know how he missed, to be honest. It looked like he caught it, maybe just held his layout a shade too long or whatever. And I was just like, man, Tamberi, I go, what happened that year? He was just dominating everything.
Yeah, dude.
He rolled his ankle like 2 weeks before the Olympics or something.
Yep.
Really bad. And I remember thinking, this guy has the worst luck.
Yeah, like this year he had kidney stones.
I mean, who gets kidney stones in the stinking, the qualifier, right?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Or a day or two before, he gets up out of bed and makes it through to the final. And then, it was a gutsy performance, but man, I'm glad he got his gold when he did, because I think the window for high jumpers is amazingly short, right?
Yeah, but I think that around that 26, 27, age is like a pretty good year. Like Shelby, like he's 29 now,
Yeah.
and he's hitting his peak.
Yeah.
That spot.
He looks
He's,
good. His body type, I don't know what he's like, but he's so
oh,
light and
I jumped
thin.
against him in high school. Whenever he was training for, he asked me to come out and jump, and so I went out there, and he's like so fast switch, you know.
Mhm.
He's really thin, but you tell he's strong,
Yeah.
and the dude can fly. He's fast.
Yeah, he looks wiry, fast, light, he's got flexibility. It just there's some guys that you just look at and you're like, oh, I realized it took me a couple years. When I got to UCLA, there were two great jumpers there. And the first thing they told me was I was fat.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, wait, what? Like I was 6'3", 180 in high school, and I've
Uh-huh.
seen pictures of me, and I was thin. I played free safety on the football team, and my neck and my legs were about the same size. So, I was not the biggest guy, and
Yeah.
I didn't see myself that way. And so, I got to UCLA, and it was not by trying, because I tried to put on weight all through high school and I couldn't do it. So I got to UCLA, and that freshman year, I did the freshman 15, like no problem. I don't know if it
Yep.
was food or what. I put on 15 pounds, and let me tell you, I did not jump any higher. I jumped worse. That freshman year was terrible. The 15 pounds, I had to relearn everything and
Exactly.
way power up. Like I had to get my full squats up twice my own weight. When I got to 400 pounds full squats, all of a sudden I could jump again. But it's like, you don't know those things. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking, if somebody could have taught me how to get that strong and yet not put on the 15, like I would have happily taken off 15 pounds.
Yeah.
If I knew how to do it.
My freshman year, I went into college at 155,
Yeah.
and then I ended up to like 165, and that's why I still like I've stayed there. I'm still 165, but I'm stronger than
Yeah.
a normal like 165 person.
At
And
one, at 6'7" too. That's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
I don't know how I maintain it. It's I eat anything I want still. It's just
Oh yeah. You've got everybody hating you right now. They're
oh
all going,
exactly.
oh, they're like that case and he can eat whatever he wants. Look at that guy. Oh, I remember those days too, man. I mean, I'm 6'3", 199. So I've put on 4 pounds since college. So I'm like, I know it's not laid out the same way. But
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, man, that meet that I went to a couple months ago when I went to jump, I felt every one of those pounds extra. I'm like, because, and it's funny, I keep telling my kids, I show them the video and I go, the way that I felt and the way that I look are two different things. I see myself when I go, hey, pop that knee up and across and then hammer back like this. And so I'm like, all right, I'll show you. So, and I'm putting the bar at like 4'6", 4'8". Like I don't jump high bars anymore. I'm 61 years old. So I go running up and I'll do it. And I know I can make it and I'll make it, and I'm like, and I'll take the video. I'm like, see that right here where my knee is. And I'm like going, okay, wait, this does not look like what I thought it looked like. I'm like, okay, never mind that. Look at his. He gets his knee up better. Okay. So yeah, my days of jumping and demonstrating are coming to a close. Pretty soon they'll have the Walker high jump, and I'll be out there for that. Well, hey, Kason, man, this is awesome. We got to do it again. Let me know, send videos. Can I do a reel or post out of what you guys do? You guys
yeah.
get in trouble to the NC2A? Does it matter?
Nah, it don't matter.
Okay. I hear people worry about stuff like that. And I'm like, how could the NCAA find time to watch Instagram posts and try to
That
get on you when don't they have more important things to worry about? Like, how to keep all these football players from taking their money? So
exactly.
right. So we'll do that and send me some more, like
Oh yeah, we'll do.
anything you've got. And especially if there's closer ups. I know it's hard to get any good videos. Like I said, I'm always yelling at these people. I'm like, why are you guys such killjoys? You're like, I'm sitting here trying to promote this event and you are doing your best. Even at this national meet that I went to, there's like 10 guys there, 10 old guys like me, reliving their glory days or whatever we're doing. And I'm like, I literally, I walked up to the guy and I said, "Hey, I'm Troy Haynes." I go, "I haven't jumped in 40 years." And he goes, "Wow, that's really amazing." I go, "Can I shoot videos from right here?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Why not?" I
For no
expected
reason.
I expected him to say no. So I'm like, "Why not exactly?" Well, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, I go,
Oh,
"Yeah, well, we wouldn't want anybody to actually see the high jumpers, and in this building that we were at in Gainesville, there was this huge track over here, but then the high jump, they stuck it in this corner over
uh-huh.
there, away from everything. I'm like, so if there was a decent sized crowd there, I would say maybe a couple hundred people in the stands. It was only on one side. And this is like I said, all my experiences were tracks like this, like just everything crunched. And we weren't even in the crunch. They didn't even have us on the track. We're over somewhere else. And then I went over to this, it had an extra pair of pits. And so I go, oh, I'll do some of my fallback drills. So I've got my hands up and I start to fall back and I'm punching my hips up and landing. Guy comes over again. I'm like, he goes, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? And he goes, well, the meet director said we couldn't use the other high jump pits. And I'm like, really? I go, dude, I'm 61 years old. I'm trying to warm up and you are not helping me in any
Yeah.
way that I can think of. You are being just a killjoy in everything that I can think of. So yeah, we got a long ways to go, man. These guys everybody's stuck. They're worse dinosaurs than me. But we need the good young blood like yourself, some enthusiasm and some know-how, some I don't know, creativeness, and we'll get it done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Kason, it was a real pleasure meeting you. I thank you again for your time. Stay healthy, jump high, send videos, and let's get that 7, 6.5.
Yep, that's the goal. The
All
goal.
right. Say hi to Coach John and Coach Kendall for me, and
Will do.
tell them you're the third. You're the third one from Texas State in the in the pantheon of Haynes guests.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
All
Take
right, you
care,
have a good
buddy.
one.
Yeah, you too. All right. Well, that was very enjoyable. You meet such great people from Texas. I got to say, I'm a lifelong 49er fan and born and raised in San Francisco, moved down to Southern California when I was 7. So I was kind of raised down here. Love the sunshine, by the way. That was like getting let out of prison when I was a kid. But I'm a loyal Niner and Giant fan, and I was raised to hate the Dallas Cowboys because when I was a kid, they knocked us out of the playoffs 3 years in a row. The famous John Brody at quarterback for those years. And, we were just laboring in obscurity. The Niners had never done anything. That was pre Walsh, pre Joe Montana. And so, it wasn't until they came along that we started beating the Cowboys like a drum for a while. And then, of course, we went through the second phase of the 49ers Cowboys rivalry with Troy Aikman, who went to UCLA like myself and then became the major 49er killer, for the Cowboys. And I'm like, oh. So anyway, I was raised on that. And, every time that I've met people from Texas, they are just the nicest people. I hope they're all like that in that state, but it's amazing. We went to a track meet there my senior year at UCLA to SMU before they got the death penalty for football. This is 1986. And they're just nice. They treated us nice. They picked us up in minivans, put us up in these 2-bedroom condos. We had brought 15 or 20 of our best athletes to that meet, and bumped into a nice couple at a really cute gal and her mom at the airport, and we're talking. Had my UCLA stuff on, which you know definitely helped start conversations. But just people were so nice. I was just blown away. And John Frazier was not from Texas; he's from out here, but now he's in Texas. And then Kendall, one of his coaches, she's another UCLA gal, but she's out in Texas. And then we get Kason there. So even if they're not from Texas originally, it sure seems to have the nicest people in that state. So many thanks again to Kason O'Riley, who is a 7'4.5" jumper. You heard about his goals. He's jumped well. He's made some teams. He made it to the Olympic trials. I'm so jealous again. I always get these guys on that jumped higher than I did, and they've managed to get to the trials. So more power to him, man. He's going to stay after it. He's going to go for the Olympic gold here in 2028 in Los Angeles. It's a scant 3 years away now, closer to 3 than it is to 4. And, what a great time. I can't wait. I'm hoping that they hold the trials in the Coliseum. Nothing against Oregon. you've heard you've heard my love hate with Oregon, but man, I think the grandeur of having it in the Coliseum, with the past history and everything would be amazing. So, but anywhere, would be great. I'd actually like to see it up at Mount Sac. That's another stadium with Nike money flowing through it. So that would be cool. You know, and Oregon gets a lot of stuff. They get the nationals there every year, NC2As. They get the Nike nationals there. So, let's throw a bone to the Coliseum and get one more shot. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up here on Raise the Bar. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us there. You can hear the podcast. If you don't want to watch us talk about track and field and look at a few videos, you can always listen in your car. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and others have us. Like I said, subscribe and send in those DMs to Sky High and Fly Jump Lab. Ask your questions, and we will go over questions from parents, athletes, coaches, hows and what's, technique, training, any kinds of questions that you have. Just fire them on in, and we'll go over them. We're going to do our first one of those episodes here coming up. We're going to let the questions pile up a little bit and go from there. All right. I keep rambling. I guess I like hearing my own voice. And we will see you here again soon on another episode of Raise the Bar with Troy Haynes, ex-jumper and now coach from UCLA. Until next time, have a good one.